All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Gurus. Week 5 in the books. We're now a third of the way through the season. Going to talk Week 6 buy low running backs. Kick off the week, NFL got us with a really exciting matchup. We got a solid Chicago versus Washington, and I'm just looking forward to that. Not really, I don't know why they do that, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sure you will more than that game. But, before we get started, I just want to shout out my most recent subscribers. You all are amazing. Everyone leaving comments. I think I did my best to get back to everybody. And please continue to subscribe and hit that button. Support me. Please leave a comment. I'm trying to get to that road of 1K subscribers so I can become the YouTube partner. I think I'm going to do a giveaway when I get to that 1K. So if you guys have any ideas, let me know. But without further ado, let's get into it, main. Week 6, buy low running backs. Last week's video, it featured Breece Hall and Alvin. So hopefully you went out, took advantage of that. You got them. If not, I don't know what to tell you because it's too late now. But it's a new week, new list. So coming up, number 1 is going to be Jonathan Taylor. Didn't play last week. Up in the air for this week. Didn't practice, so not a good sign. He's dealing with the ankle injury as well as the turf toe. So he's not worried about the turf toe, just focusing on the ankle. But the turf toe is a lingering injury. A lot of people believe it's something that will affect his play or anybody's in general. Based on science, though, the answer is that's not true. You can see it right there. It's just simply based on toughness, and I can't think of anybody who's more tough than Jonathan Taylor. Been through 3 seasons now. He just missed his first game due to injury last week. So I believe that he's tough enough to fight through it, and it shouldn't affect his ability. But to start off the season, man, it's been underwhelming thus far. He's got averaging 4.1 yards per carry. He's got 45.7 fantasy points on the season. Running back 28 overall with 1 less game than everybody else. But with him, you're going to have to pay up. You're going to have to put out some studs. But this because he was the consensus number 1 overall this year for good reason. Now, he is decently discounted, right? So that's just because of his injury. He's had a poor performance this far, but owners are starting to panic. So this is when we want to buy. We want to buy him to win the playoffs. We don't want to buy him for 1 week. We don't want to, if he sits out, whatever, it doesn't matter. We do not want to wait for this opportunity. He's discounted. Go out and get him. If you want to win 1 week, that's what streamers are there for. So this is somebody who you want to build up for the playoffs. That's what matters the most. And there's no one I want more on my team than this guy. So far to start off the season, he's averaging 20.3 attempts a game. Usage is number 2 overall, second to Derrick Henry. Just under 100 yards per game, has 1 touchdown, averaging 11.4 fantasy points. That is not the running back 1 that you drafted. Very underwhelming. But we've seen this before from him. In the last 3 seasons, he's historically just gotten off to a slower start for whatever reason. Not sure why. But he's always finished strong. So with that being said, last year, his first 3 games, he just had 9.4 fantasy points. It took him to week 4 to score his first touchdown. But from there, he went on to average 23.2 fantasy points per game. The running back 1 that you drafted, he did that for the rest of the season last year. In 2020, it was similar. It was his rookie season. His first 10 games, he averaged just 10.9 fantasy points on the season, or for the first 10. The last 5 weeks of the season, though, he averaged 25.1. So definitely, somebody who starts off a little bit slower historically, always finishes strong. No reason to see that wouldn't happen this time. But, he's somebody who, to be honest with you, like everyone keeps saying there's so many things around him. That's why his value is so low. He's got the injuries, not off to a good start, but also he's on a bad team. And this is somewhat true thus far, but he also has one of the softest run schedules, and that's really what I see to be, oversighting the whole he's on a bad team. So look for him to take advantage of that. He may not go off next week or the following week, but I do have full confidence that the second half of the season he will be that guy that you thought he was. So take advantage. Go get him on that short-term discount. Scoop him while you can. All right. Next one going to be James Conner. He's got 303 total yards on the season. He's currently sitting at running back 31. He's got 5 games under his belt. Left last week due to the rib injury. Status is uncertain for this week. Left week 2 with the ankle injury, so he's been flush with injuries. He's only finished 3 out of the 5 games. He's been held under 10 fantasy points in 4 out of the 5 games. Only scored 1 touchdown in that span. So overall, just a lot of negatives from him and the Cardinals as a whole, which gives us a perfect opportunity to go out and buy, right? So this guy scored 18 touchdowns last season. The only difference was that he had Chase Edmonds to compete against. There's no Chase Edmonds anymore. For that reason, he is being more involved in the passing game. It does raise his weekly floor, so he's not as touchdown dependent, which I expect that to happen. But, from there, he's getting 48 receptions. This is his pace right now. If he didn't go out early with those 2 games, he would be on pace to break his reception record of like 55 targets or 55 receptions. But around this time last season, the Cardinals were the hottest team in football. They were 7-0, and before coming back to earth. I am optimistic that this will be the exact opposite this year. They look terrible now, but they have all the talent in the world. Hopkins is coming back. It should excite them, motivate them, and I expect them to be a completely different team in the second half of the season. Their offense is just too talented. I had him in my buy low week 5 video. So if you want more in-depth content on his stats and why I think you should buy low on him based on this and everything else I told you here, go check out that video. You'll see a little bit more on him. But moving on, this guy was also on my last buy low video. Here again, his value has raised since the last time we talked to him, but it's not too late. So Travis Etienne, coming off of 114 total yards, 12.9 fantasy points, first 100-yard game in his career. Welcome back, my brother. I know a lot of people gave up on him. I never did. So here you go, Etienne. But with that being said, he split touchdowns with Robinson, or touches, 10 and 10. Same exact thing for the prior week. But he's the clear better back. So with him having 12.9, Etienne just had 4.9, Robinson just had 4.9. But with this, the usage is something that I'm worth monitoring. So Etienne's usage so far the last 2 weeks has been 52% of the time he's been on the field, compared to Robinson's just 44%. That's very different from the first 3 weeks, right? So Robinson's usage was 57% through the first 3 weeks, compared to Etienne's 44%. So they basically just flip-flopped, right? And that's something that's intriguing to me. So I've been saying, Etienne, since the start, he will slowly overtake this backfield. And I believe it's actually happening. So remember, though, this is a guy who's only played in 5 NFL games. So, he needs time. And the breakout week is coming sooner rather than later. Just a matter of when. But he looks great with the ball with the eye test. And I can see the game is actually slowing down for him more. And he's just getting better every single week, seeing the field more every single week. And for that reason, he's one of my favorite candidates for a second half breakout. Not only because of those factors I just mentioned, but, Robinson I don't think he's going to be able to hold. I talked about this in my last video, but he didn't have time to prepare coming off that injury. He was focusing on rehabbing, and I just don't see his body being able to endure a workload or even, be able to endure an entire 17-game season. So just something worth monitoring. But, something that I wanted to share is my friend called me the other day, right? And he was like, would you give up Kareem Hunt for Etienne? And I asked him, is he looking to win this week or is he looking to win in the playoffs? That answered his question. This is the mentality with the buy lows, okay? Yeah, Hunt may be a better player, maybe this week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks. But Etienne has the ability to be a must start, right? He has the potential to be a league-winning running back, which Hunt does not have unless Chubb were to go down. You need to think long-term, prepare for the playoffs, not next week. It's a very common mistake that I see. But another potential league winner, as you can see, I'm going for some home runs in this video, is J.K. Dobbins. I like what I saw out of him coming off of a really bad week. He just had 8 attempts, did get 44 yards 4.4 fantasy points. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry. Looked great when the ball was given to him. He just didn't see enough of it, right? But the 4.4 fantasy points was definitely disappointing compared to his prior week where he put up 20.3 and scored 2 touchdowns, right? But now sitting at 29.7 fantasy points on the season, 28 attempts, 108 yards. He scored, first week was 5, second week 20.3, third 4.4 in the 3 games. So just 1 game over 10 and 2 games, 5 and under. So value is definitely low enough where I'm looking to buy. But I'm buying for 2 primary reasons, right? One is because he appears to be or near full strength. Remember, this was a guy who 2020 averaged 10.4 fantasy points per game, 6 yards per carry, scored 9 touchdowns in his rookie season. The crazy thing about that was he was 3rd on the team in rushing attempts. He was 3rd behind Lamar Jackson, who had 159, and then Gus Edwards had 144. So 3rd there, which he totaled 134 attempts. So not even the number 1 back there. He still has Lamar Jackson, but now he's competing with Kenyon Drake. But he is clearly the preferred back as opposed to his rookie season. You saw what he did. But now that he's a primary back, he is averaging 10 to 12 touches per game. I expect him to increase his workload as the season progresses, as he gets stronger. Right now, I think they're just trying to manage it. But the main reason why I am buying is his strength of schedule. I mean, it's incredibly favorable, especially after his Week 10 bye. And this schedule thus far that he's played against, the teams, it's been very unfavorable, right? I mean, he played New England, he played Buffalo, he played Cincinnati. Those were tough games. Expect him to continue to get stronger. Buy him before it's too late. You don't have to go buy right this second if you don't, although I recommend it. But you must buy after his Week 9 game going into the bye. And he has New Orleans and another tough matchup that I can't remember what it was. But those 2, and then you can go out and buy him after that. But the last one, and this is my favorite guy, I absolutely refuse to give up on him. He was also on my list last week. That's Devin Singletary, right? He's coming off of a 5.1 fantasy point performance, only 6 attempts, 1 reception. For the season, he's got 44.6 fantasy points. Absolutely underwhelming, not only in fantasy point wise, but also usage, right? Which is a concern. Very different from what we saw the prior 2 weeks. The prior 2 weeks, he was averaging 16.5 touches, 93 total yards, 14.6 fantasy points. So that's what we're trying to get back to. He was on the field for just 54% of the snaps last week compared to that 80% the prior 2 weeks. And he was outproduced by White. So on top of that, he's only had 1 double-digit fantasy point performance in the last 5 weeks. So all these sound terrible, so why go out and buy him, right? Let's not overreact about last week. Those prior 2 weeks were very encouraging. But there's a logical explanation for this, right? Like, what happened? It's simply because that's just how the game went. Josh Allen went absolute God mode, was throwing bombs left and right, and then the game just got out of hand. Singletary was not needed. He might as well have not even showed up. It would not have made a difference. So he was just not needed. They're going into Kansas City, or they're playing against Kansas City this week. It's going to be a high-scoring game. I expect him to be heavily involved. But take advantage of that, right? Because he's really like somebody who I really believe is going to be a difference maker, and his value is so low. You do not have to trade the house for it. If you want to look more about that 80% usage and what he did with that, his prior 6 games last season where he received that type of usage, go look at my last video. It's on there, and you can see, and it'll probably give you a little bit more confidence to go out and trade for this guy. And again, you're not going to have to give up too much. But those are my top 5 buy lows for the week. I do have 2 other players that I consider targeting that I did not put on this list. You are going to have to pay up a little bit more for these guys, but first one is DeAndre Swift. He is a buy low, but it's going to be tough probably to see any owners try and get rid of him, especially since they've been waiting since week 3 to play him. He's now on a bye week, so if you can find a fantasy manager who's desperate for a win near that bottom of the list, can't afford to wait, go ahead and try and offer him a trade. It won't hurt. Or if you have Jamal Williams, that's another thing too. But the other person on my list, and This guy, Joe Mixon, he continues to let me down week after week, but he will be on this list for me every single week until either he performs or I die. That's how confident I am in this. He has every single box that he needs to be an RB1. But, from there, it's just waiting, being patient, and I would go out and look to try and buy him as well. His usage is off the charts. He actually produced his best performance last week, efficiency-wise. He just didn't have that many touches. Other than that, that's everything. If you guys enjoyed my my stuff here, please hit that subscribe button. Support me, not YouTube. Right now, they're running ads on my videos. I'm not getting paid for them, but they are. They're making money off me. So overall, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate your support. Remember, please leave a comment below, and I promise I'll answer each and every single one of you to the best of my ability. Otherwise, peace.